We all know this story, the story about the parable of the sheep and the goats, right? And the plain reading of this is pretty simple, right? That it's a story about division on the sheep, the goats, right, left. It's also about eschatology, how time is completed, right? Or the end times, as some might call it. It clearly looks to be about that. Well, I have a feeling, if you've watched the last two homilies, uh, that's not what I see. And a big part of that is Jesus doesn't seem to be interested in our dividing ourselves. He doesn't want us to divide ourselves. That the issue, of course, is God's, right? So if we keep that in mind, it makes the telling of this parable completely different. And it's different in this key way. Look at the context, right? All of these parables, the parable of the bridesmaids, the parable of the slaves, and this parable with the sheep and the goats, is you have a difference between what is good and bad, but what is some one definition of good, and then ignorance. Like, it's not wise and stupid, or active and lazy in the second case. It's good and ignorant of their goodness, ignorant of what is even good. That's what these three parables seem to demonstrate. And so, if God's depiction of the kingdom, because this whole chapter begins with the kingdom of heaven is like, right? So it all begins with this idea. So if this is a depiction of the kingdom of heaven, is about division. Those who are saved are the ones who are good, and those who are condemned are people who might be good if they noticed. Doesn't ring true to how we see condemnation, right? Those that are condemned are supposed to be evil, are supposed to be people who willfully do it. In this division of good and the sheep and the goats in this one, the sheep are described as the ones who go and do good things for other people. So they're the people who feed the poor and clothe them and take care of them with no ulterior motive. Who is condemned? The goats? Not the one who steals it, not the people who shoved these people and threw them out in the streets, but the people who didn't split their hot dog in half, right? Or the one little bean, the ladle of bean soup. The ones who had nothing, essentially, and didn't share nothing with another person who had nothing, right? That's not worthy of condemnation, because it leaves the people who stole out of the equation entirely, right? They're not even getting condemned. No, they're not getting saved, but they're not getting condemned in these stories. So it leads me to believe that, among other reasons, that this whole sequence is actually a reflection of the kingdom. That the kingdom of heaven is not this thing that's coming later. It's what's here. But what's different is what God dreams for us and what we are. So the kingdom of heaven that Jesus is describing is our kingdom. The kingdom as we've set it up, and the kingdom that is not worthy of God yet. And that gives us an opportunity to see what the kingdom of heaven, as God intends for it to be, really is. So to see that, we just flip it over. We flip this around, right? So instead of focusing our attention exclusively on the people who do the right thing, we get the opportunity to see the people who are the screw-ups, right, in the story. And those are the people who don't share and who don't see it. So instead of their being condemned for eternity, this is most likely to be something more about the opportunity to find how they get fed, how they get clothed, and how they can see and recognize where someone else is coming from. Because here's the deal. This is the last one. This is the last parable. What happens next? We have the anointing of the feet. We have gathering of the disciples. We have the Last Supper. We have his crucifixion as a common criminal. Not a common criminal, actually. As a rebel, as somebody who's as a terrorist. right? That's how he's condemned. He's killed. He rises again, right? Saves us, saves the world. But the big thing is that after he's gone is the revelation. The Spirit coming back to us. We're going through this dark period. He ends on this sort of dark time, on these sort of vividly backwards parables that get us confused and conflicted going into his death. Because what comes out of his death is beautiful. So he gives us this example of what's awful in the world so that it can be transformed and come out great. This parable then isn't about division so much as it is recognizing that sort of how, perhaps a little bit how we're different, but how we can get to the next stage. How we move from divided toward unified. And the way that happens is by recognizing each other. By recognizing the pain someone else is going through. And recognizing how I can lower myself to them rather than worrying about the other stuff. And especially condemning them. How we can avoid allowing them to be condemned by the system. All of that stuff is the stuff Jesus is paying attention to. That's all of his teaching up to this point. And it ends here. And we take it up. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you something to think about. And I'll see you next week.